Welcome to the WTR Healthcare Happenings podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. In today's podcast episode, I'm joined by Jared Kelly, CEO of Oncolytics Biotech, NASDAQ ticker symbol ONCY. Also joining is my Water Tower Equity Research colleague, Robert Sassoon. Oncolytics Biotech is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on building a platform around its investigational, first-in-class, double-stranded RNA immunotherapeutic agent for the treatment of gastrointestinal tumors, among the largest unmet needs in oncology today. Jared and Robert, good morning, and thank you for joining me today.
And good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Tim, and good morning, Jared.
Jared, let me kick things off by asking you to tell our listeners about your professional background, which I know includes some marquee name law firms, and then please provide us with a 30,000-foot overview of the company's business model.
Sure. Yeah. So my background is I'm a transactional lawyer, and I did transactions across the capital market space, IPOs, and public company M&A transactions, and really got to know the business inside and out by doing large pharma deals and biotech deals, including buyouts and licensing deals for on both sides, for the strategics and for the biotechs. So I spent about a dozen years doing that. I practiced at pretty large law firms, like you said, Kirkland & Ellis being the largest of them. That's where I really started my career. And 30,000-foot view of the company. We're developing an oncolytic virus. It's unique because it's systemically delivered. It's not neutralized by the blood, and it uses double-stranded RNA technology to selectively infect tumor cells and cause an inflammatory response, and then leading to your immune system to then sniff out the cancer and kill it.
Most interesting. Robert, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask a few questions of Jared.
Great. Thank you, Tim. And Jared, thank you for joining our podcast. Now, we've seen some amazing advances in therapeutic solutions for many cancers over the past 3 decades. So, for example, we can look at blood cancers, breast and prostate cancers, for instance, where survival rates have improved significantly. But can you explain why the treatment of gastrointestinal cancers, particularly RAS pathway mutant tumors, which remain among the largest unmet need, have not seen the same progress?
Yeah, I think there's multiple reasons. And one of them, I think, is driven by immunotherapies not working that well in gastrointestinal tumors. As everyone knows who's followed, cancer drug development over the years, checkpoint inhibitors are a very successful form of, cancer treatment. It's right up there and probably surpasses chemotherapy in terms of how well it works. And it uses the immune system to fight the tumor off. I think your immune system is the strongest thing, that you have to fight the tumors. With tumors being immunosuppressive and being able to reverse that effect, that's really the thing that I think has pushed cancer drug development, to new heights. And that's, 10, 15, 20 years ago now. But they never really worked. Checkpoint inhibitors never really worked in gastrointestinal tumors. And I think a lot of it is because of the cold nature of those tumors. They're wrapped in all this stroma tissue, and colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, all RAS driven. RAS has always been difficult to drug, just generally. Plus, just this large encasement that you have around the tumor that really affects the ability for treatments to hit gastrointestinal tumors like anal cancer, pancreatic cancer, and colorectal cancer being the primary 3 that we focus on, but also liver cancer and other gastrointestinal stroma tumors. So over the years, I think it's just been one of these high unmet needs. It's a growing tumor type. Colorectal cancer is the fastest growing tumor in people under 50. And now there's a significant need out there for not only development, but for treatments that work.
So you have a platform drug, if I can pronounce it properly, pelareorep. So can you give us a 101 on that? What exactly is it? How does the platform work? What makes it differentiated both from other oncolytic virus platforms and from other therapeutic approaches being developed for RAS-driven cancers?
Yeah, it's a naturally occurring virus. And the virus selectively replicates within certain mutations, and those mutations being associated with tumor cells. The virus can infect healthy cells, but it's not allowed to replicate within it because of the double-stranded RNA component of the virus. That is not able to be translated in normal healthy cells. If you have certain pathway activations and certain mutations, then the virus replicates within the cell, and those activations and mutations are found in tumor cells. So you have a virus. Viruses can go anywhere. They can go places where even small molecules can't go. They can go places certainly where monoclonal antibodies can't go. And so it's in terms of a delivery system, it might be the best thing to deliver to cells that there is, a viral vector. Our oncolytic virus is different because it's systemically delivered. It's an IV delivery system. You don't have to shoot a needle into a tumor or, put the virus inside of a certain organ. And it's not neutralized by the blood like many other oncolytic viruses are, or other, modified viruses. So if you think about getting the flu virus, if you just injected the flu virus into your arm right now, you would get sick, but eventually your body would neutralize that virus. Well, our virus isn't neutralized by the immune system. It sort of masks itself onto other immune cells and is carried by other cells to these mutations and is then allowed to replicate. And so in terms of designing a cancer drug that could hit all tumors, I don't know that anyone could think of something better than a small oncolytic virus that has a safety profile where it doesn't infect and kill normal tissue, and it's only allowed to go and cause inflammation within the tumor cells. And so in terms of a drug that if you're thinking about, hey, how can we design something that hits all the tumors, this is the thing that I think people would dream up.
Got it. Now, pelareorep is not really something new. It's been in clinical development for more than 20 years. So today the company appears to be at a very different stage with FDA alignment on registration-directed studies, a more focused GI strategy, encouraging data in RAS-mutant cancers, and a refreshed leadership team that you have. So what scientific, clinical, and strategic changes over the past, say, 18 to 24 months give you confidence that the program is now positioned for regulatory and commercial success?
Yeah, and I'll just say, Revolution Medicines created their RAS inhibitor about 15 years ago, I think. And people laughed at them and said, you can't drug the undruggable, and this is very difficult. And now they're a $30 billion company. A company I sold before I joined Oncolytics, this company called Ambrex. It was an ADC platform. ADCs for 10 years were out of favor. No one thought they would work. Too toxic, not enough duration. And then everyone wants to buy an ADC, and they're still a hot tool in the cancer fight, in the cancer drug development space. So I'm not afraid of the being around for so long. What's changed here now is just our focus. We've decided that yes, we could go to any tumor, but it's not worth going to every tumor. It's worth going to tumors where we can see a clear differentiation when we add our drug to a certain indication. For example, colorectal cancer, our lead indication, where we're going to get a registrational study and have data by the end of the year, new clinical data that's controlled. That's a giant market opportunity. The second line standard of care gives you 11 months of survival. Our drug gives you 27 months of survival. The standard of care gives you 10% tumor response rate. Our drug gives you 30% response rate. So we're looking at places where the magnitude of effect is such that there's no question that you have an effect. So when you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling certain efficacy benchmarks, that's where you want to be. And in other tumors, yeah, it might work occasionally here and there, but you want to make a clear difference. And then you want to have a very clear regulatory path. And that's what we've done over the last year. We've met with the FDA 6 times. We've gotten 3 studies approved for registration, quality and design. And we've gotten 2 different fast track designations. And this doesn't just happen. It's not just because, people, it doesn't just come to you. These are real efforts that go into this for a long time. The difference now is we have a focus on a clear clinical development path with tumor indications that are multi-billion dollars and have no treatments that compare to sort of what we're doing and in terms of efficacy, and then a clear regulatory path in terms of getting that registered after you show the clinical data. So that's the difference I think we're in compared to 3 to 5 years ago when the company was still trying to figure out where it fit in the breast cancer landscape, was very crowded and difficult to break in without extraordinary data and a lot of money and time to develop your drug.
Biotech is a lot about trial and error, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So you've generated data across 3 GI indications now, colorectal, anal, and pancreatic. So can you walk us through the most important clinical results from the past year or so, and tell us which readouts you think are the most meaningful signals for where pelareorep goes from here?
And so starting with easy, it's colorectal cancer easily, right? The first one is you see not only tumor response and duration, so you have 30% response rate versus 10 in the standard care, and 19 months of durable response versus various studies, but it's usually around 6 months or so. Not only do you have tumor response, you have survival data. You have 17 months, of progression-free survival versus 6 months of progression-free survival in the current standard care second line. And again, 27 months of survival versus 11. So you're seeing an effect when you add our drug to the standard of care where you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling efficacy benchmarks. That's really important to give you the confidence to say, we're going to go ahead and move forward. We're going to take in money. We're going to use, investment dollars and time and effort to go get to a point where the return on investment is going to be big enough to make a real difference. Now, all that takes a lot of time. I mean, clinical trials, just getting them, you contact a cancer center of excellence today, it's 4 months before they even have a site approved to be open. I mean, under the best case terms, right? Like this takes a lot of time. So what we're doing now, we started the colorectal trial and we opened up a number of sites. Patients are beginning to be right on the cusp of enrollment, just waiting out certain periods. And then by the end of the year or early January, we'll have new controlled clinical data in the colorectal study that we basically just took the same study that gave us those great results I summarized and then made it a controlled study. The other thing that we're letting mature here is our anal cancer study. In the second line and later, there's no approved therapies in anal cancer following first line standard of care. If you walk into a clinic now with anal cancer, you get one treatment first line, and then after you progress, they tell you to go on a clinical trial. That's how dire the situation is if you show up with anal cancer, and 10,000 Americans are showing up with new cases every year. That's a multi-billion-dollar market, and there's nothing there after the first line. Our drug has shown that when you add it with a checkpoint inhibitor, you're getting 3 times the ORR, 4 to 6 times the duration of response, and we're coming out with survival data, hopefully by the end of the year, probably fourth quarter. So those are the 2, important clinical data benchmarks for us. The anal cancer data coming in the next 3 or 4 months here, and then 5, 6 months from now, the colorectal data.
Well, we'll certainly be looking to follow up on that and see how that goes. You're competing for the same immune activation thesis, cytokines, bispecific cell therapies, and other oncolytic viruses. So setting aside efficacy claims, which are hard to compare anyway across small trials, what's the single most durable structural advantage pelareorep has, and who is your most credible competitor on that specific dimension?
I think what differentiates us the most is it's an oncolytic virus that uses double-stranded RNA to cause inflammation in the tumor. No one else is doing that. And people have used oncolytic viruses for various things, and hopefully there'll be approvals, actually. Candel, CG Oncology, Replimune, they're all doing oncolytic virus drug development, and hopefully they'll all have approvals by 6 to 8 months from now. I think Candel is probably the closest in terms of our technology because they've shown they can do at least some systemic dosing before neutralization, and it has an effect. And Candel is led by a really great CEO and leader. A lot of respect for him, and they're doing really important work. So I'm cheering them on. I think they'll be close to getting an approval soon in prostate cancer, and their results have been amazing. We're going after different tumor types, and I think, but they're a $500-600 million market cap company or something, maybe even more at this point. But the other competitor, I would say, not really competitor, they're in melanoma, but they're doing something very similar in combining with checkpoints. Is Replimune. They have an oncolytic virus that they inject into melanoma, skin cancer, and they combine that with checkpoint immunotherapy, checkpoint inhibitor therapy. And we're doing the same thing in anal cancer, that they're doing that same combo. So if they validate that combo as an approvable combination that the FDA sees, I think strategics will then look closer at our combination studies, and we have multiple checkpoint plus oncolytic virus studies in pancreatic cancer as well. But I'm focusing on the anal cancer side because it's just a great opportunity. There's no the competition's low, there's no available therapies, and we're there to hopefully take advantage of a larger market, a potentially larger market opportunity.
That's going to be interesting. So partnerships appear central to scaling the pelareorep opportunity. You've chosen to advance colorectal cancer independently while seeking partners for anal and pancreatic cancer programs that require checkpoint inhibitors. How did you make those capital allocation decisions, and what milestones or data packages do you believe are necessary to maximize your leverage in potential partnerships?
Yeah, I think in life you make decisions based on what you can control, right? And then I think there's always things that you say, well, if this broke this way, or if this helped us out, that would really be big, or if someone did this for us, that would be big. But you can't in drug development, you can't wait around for something like that to happen. And so there's a huge difference when you look at our 3 indications, one being pancreatic cancer, the other being anal cancer, and the other being colorectal cancer. There's a huge difference in the studies that we're setting up. Pancreatic cancer and anal cancer both rely on having a checkpoint inhibitor partner to contribute the drug, their drug, the checkpoint inhibitor, to combine with our drug to have a treatment option. Checkpoints are not approved in pancreatic cancer at all. One checkpoint is approved in anal cancer, but the rest are not. But colorectal cancer, we're not combining with checkpoints. We're combining with approved therapies that's just sitting there in the second line. And it's been used for 10 or so years. It's completely reimbursed. We don't have to go seek out a partner. You just have the clinic get the drug combination, which is a chemo plus Avastin, and they combine it right there. It's all reimbursed. We don't have to pay for it out of pocket. It's a standard of care, and then all we're doing is adding to the standard of care. So in terms of trial enrollment, very simple. You're not taking 2 investigational therapies and asking people to take a chance on you. From like if you're walking in second line colorectal cancer, after you progress, you say, well, what would I normally get? Oh, it's this. Well, great. So there's a study that gives me that no matter what, or I might be at the experimental thing, which I'll still get the standard of care, but I'm going to add on this other thing that might make the standard of care a lot better based on early clinical results. That's a lot more enticing for people who have the disease and need treatment. So I think there's a big difference in that. And then the second thing that's most important, that's probably equally as important, is market size. Pancreatic cancer, Revolution Medicines and others are doing strong work there with great results. And how are you going to compete with a $30 billion company with $4 billion in cash? It's going to be really difficult. And then anal cancer, like I said, it's a $1 billion market. It was smaller than a $5 to $8 billion market colorectal cancer, where you have 5 to 6 times as many patients. So colorectal cancer, I think, is the higher unmet need in terms of market size and outsized opportunity for like I said before, we're looking for ROI when we put our dollars efficiently. And to get to your second part of your question, which is, what are the data sets that are going to make partners come? This company's generated great data over the 20 to 30 years that it's been around, but has it generated a very clean, controlled study where when you're just adding Pella and you see the effect? And the answer probably in the market right now is no, or else this company would be funded completely, maybe purchased already, because of the diversity that you can use this drug pelareorep for. But it's never really put that one very clean, interpretable, unquestionable data set in front of everyone. And that's what we're doing with colorectal cancer.
So beyond partnering, which upcoming clinical or regulatory milestones do you believe could have the greatest impact on your financing flexibility, whether by reducing reliance on equity capital, improving access to capital markets, or unlocking non-dilutive funding opportunities?
Yeah, I think there's really three things. One is something we can't control, and it's something that we want to happen in the space, right? It's these things I talked about with Candel and CG and Genelux and these other and Replimune. When are oncolytic viruses going to be part of something that strategics look for, something that investors want to invest in, right? I mean, ADCs are hot, T cell engagers are hot, RAS inhibitors are white hot. When is the oncolytic virus going to become that? Maybe we'll be the ones that produce the data that puts oncolytic viruses over the edge, or maybe it's going to be an approval for Replimune. We don't know. Something will break where oncolytic viruses become part of the treatment landscape or part of the M&A landscape, et cetera. I think that's something we can't control, though. So the other things that we can control are generating data. That's the colorectal trial. That's the anal cancer data that's going to come out. That's additional studies that will run potentially in liver cancer or an additional study in anal cancer to sort of prove out the post first line standard of care. So clinical data will help to generate this. These are other milestones. But, partnerships are going to be the thing that we focus on the most. The company's been around for a long time. In order to commercialize this drug in the way that it needs to unlock the real value, you need a large commercial partner that knows how to do that side of the business. And the question is, when will we generate enough data and have enough momentum in the space to convince the strategic to come in? It's not if, it's just when it's going to happen, because the drug has shown the activity, it has the market opportunities. It's just a question of when. And if I'm betting, which I am, this is my career, and I'm the CEO of the company. So if I'm betting on clinical data, it's going to be in a $5 to $8 billion market, second line, where standard of care hasn't changed in 10 years, and we're going to add to it and create controlled data in the colorectal cancer market that is potentially practice changing.
Well, good luck with that anyway. Final question from me. If we were having this conversation 3 years from now, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to speak with you again well before that, what does success look like for Oncolytics, and what milestones would need to be achieved for you to say that Pela has reached its full potential?
I would say within a year, you want to have a partnership of some scope, some shape. I've been here a year, and when I took this company over, I said there's about 2 years of work to do. Check some boxes. Manufacturing, can we scale commercially? IP, do we have enough runway? Regulatory, do we have a clear pathway? Clinical data, do we have the data that's going to convince everyone that this is a drug that's worth investing in? So I'd say within a year, you want to have some shape of a clinical partner, of a strategic partnership with a large pharma, whether it be a licensing deal with biobucks, as they call it, or a complete buyout of the company. And I think 2 years after that, you're going to have multiple approvals. We've set this up to where a pharma could step in today, right now, and have 3 approvals within 2 to 2.5 years in 3 different tumor types. Once you get one approval, it becomes a lot easier from there. We've set it up that way. We just don't have $400 million to do it, right? And we don't have a commercial team to sell this thing, to everyone like someone else would, a large pharma would. So that's what success looks like for Oncolytics and pelareorep. I've always thought it should be part of the treatment landscape early on in every tumor. And there's certain organizations that can do that. A 30-person biotech is not one of those organizations, but we can get it to the next step in the development chain. So,
well, wishing you all the luck, and hopefully you'll have your prayers anyway answered. Well, thank you, Jared, for guiding us through Oncolytics Biotech, its business model, and giving us a better understanding of your planned pathway. And wishing you again every success for the future. So I'll hand it back to Tim.
Thank you, Robert. And Jared, thanks so much for joining us today to discuss oncolytic therapeutics. You're doing some very, very important work on what is clearly the fastest growing cancer on the planet from everything I've been reading of late. So very important work, and keep it up.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry-specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of the WTR Healthcare Happenings podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.